Hello, this is Aladino Velez. Go over a brief summary of this week's discussion, which has to do with the Industrial Revolution. It completely revolutionized the world as far as like a labor perspective and how it limited the amount of labor needed to do a particular job. Some of the areas covered was in textiles, the cotton cultivation in the South, uh, as well as like the steam engine and how it replaced some windmills, water mills, and even revolutionized how ships travel throughout the world. Starting with one of the biggest components in its economic term of economies of scale, it improved it by a vast amount. Economies of scale is basically is the more you produce something, the cheaper it is to produce. So the more you produce in a very a small amount of time, the cheaper it is to produce. When cheaper it is to produce, the more output you create, the more profit you generate. So with textiles, they started with the spinning jenny. I know originally it started with just one spool, and then it went up to 8 spools, and then it came. They eventually developed a spinning jenny that can go up to 100 spools. So you can just see the economies of scale adding just to that industry right there, all because it's one device. And then one thing I was not aware of is was the impact of the cotton gin and how it prolonged essentially the slavery and the demand for slavery down south, and how the cotton gin was like a revolutionary item that removed the seeds from the cotton. I didn't know that that was a problem with cotton, and and from the not the history, the research I've done, before the cotton gin, one worker can remove the seeds and produce 1 pound of cotton a day, seedless cotton in a day. With the jenny, one slave or laborer can effectively produce almost 300 pounds of seedless cotton in a day. So you can just see right there the economies of scale and why the cotton industry just boomed after the invention of this device, which prolonged slavery. I mean, that was like an unfortunate cost behind it, but it's just amazing how one device can completely revolutionize an entire industry. And then moving on to the steam engine, the British, there was a British inventor that invented it, which this is revolutionized a tremendous amount. It had huge impacts on how factories and workers gathered. Originally, one of the main points that was made was a lot of the work was done in the rural areas because the windmills and the water mills, they had to be near a river. Or But with the engine, with the steam engine, you can consolidate a whole lot of people into a smaller area, a more condensed area. So that's where the cities flourished, all because of just one invention. And you can just imagine the effects it had on ships. Now you don't have to worry about the wind anymore. You have the steam engine that can produce enough horsepower to turn the turbines. And now you don't need a ship. You just need a propeller and a rudder. And now you can move the ship anywhere you want to go without really even thinking about what direction the wind's blowing to a certain degree. So, you know, and that was my wanted to touch also that kind of shocked me too was like the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, how child labor was used, and by as young as 7, they were moving carts full of coal and working with their parents at coal mines. That blew my mind. That was insane to me that children that young would be, I guess, used and during that time. That's just crazy, and how nobody threw the red flag up. I guess eventually they did, but that's unheard of in today's world. But that's my summary of this week's topic of the Industrial Revolution. Thank you and have a good day.